Hey, welcome back to Titan Vans. I'm Matt, and we're here to do a quick video rundown of winterizing one of your Titan rigs. So whether it's a classic design, custom build, things might be in slightly different places, but the process will be identical. So first, what you're going to need. I'll have a rag just for a little bit of water cleanup. You'll need one of our water pump adapter winterization kits here. So very simple, you can build it yourself or buy it direct from us. And you will need an air compressor. The key with the air compressor, make sure it's set up at 55 PSI. The reason for that is we want to make sure we match the maximum output pressure of the water pumps we use in our rig. If you overpressurize the system, could potentially damage seals. It kind of just makes it a lot harder to do the winterization, so just make sure to set that regulator on your air compressor at 55 PSI. All right, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drain the water tank. So really simple in our designs. Pretty much every rig we put out has one of our control valves. The control valve is located generally on the back of wherever the water tank is. So here you can see we just have a very simple three-way valve. It has 3 positions. Currently it's in the on state, so this is where it's going to be 99% of the time. This allows water to come out of the water tank. So our water tank is here behind our cabinet, and then you can see there's a little sight tube right here with a back tank light so you can see your water level. Here we can control whether the water is on, so when it's in this current state, it comes out of the water tank, goes up to the water pump, and then distributes to your entire system. We can go to the off state, so that's straight up and down, so now water cannot flow out of the tank and it is not draining either. So that's the second state, and then the third one, if I rotate it again another 90 degrees, will start draining out the bottom of the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this. I have a little bucket underneath because we're inside, but if you're outside, you can go ahead and let it just drain straight to the ground. It is fresh water, but if you look here, you can see our 2 drain tubes. The larger one is for the water tank itself, and this small steel braided one is actually for the hot water heater. So you'll see how both of those function. So we'll go ahead and rotate this to the drain. So simply twist there so it starts pointing towards the outside of the van, and you'll see it's draining out the bottom of the tank. So depending on how much water you have in the tank, this could take a minute. It could take 10-15 minutes to drain the entire 20 gallons out of the tank. So while that's draining, we're going to go ahead and move forward. I kind of already pre-drained the tank, so there's not a ton of water in there, so it'll just continue to drain for a little bit longer. Second thing we need to do, we're going to come here underneath, and we'll kind of give you a rundown of what's happening in your water utility area. So we just got a little light in here to kind of give you guys a little bit better view. Here's this main water inlet. This comes directly from that valve that we just manipulated down below. Up here we have the pump strainer. This is meant to pre-filter out any debris, rocks, sediment, anything that might have ended up in your tank accidentally. Here we have the main water pump. So this is a SPX flow 2.9 gallon per minute water pump. And then you can see the outlet comes here and then gets distributed to the entire system via these valves to the hot water heater and the cold water throughout the system. So what we want to do is back here, it's a little tight, but there is a quick release mechanism right here, this red tab. So you'll reach behind the pre-filter and just pull straight down. You'll get a better look at this once I get this filter out of your way. And then all you have to do, grab your rag and make sure you set it down here. There's a little bit of water that can come out at this point. You want to make sure, I guess another thing to note, you want to make sure your water pump is off at this stage. So, we shut off power to it, just make sure that's turned off. Your pump switch will be up on your control panel. Go ahead and slide this guy back, kind of give it a little wiggle and pull it back. And here now you can see really clearly this clip. So this is what I pulled down. So you go ahead and pull it down, and that's what releases it. You have this quick release mechanism that has a little seal that slides in there, and when you press up, it locks it into place so it can't come out. So just kind of reach down, pull that back. This slides off. we're going to go ahead and drain this. So that little bit of water that you see in there, we got to make sure that this assembly is fully dry. So go ahead and pull this guy off. What I like to do is flip it upside down, make sure that you get all the water kind of just captured in there, and then go ahead and just take your rag, just make sure that's nice and dry, and just set it off to the side for now. We're not going to need this part, and you can let it go ahead and just air dry while we're doing the rest of the winterization. So set that off to the side. This part we're no longer going to use, and we're going to take our winterization adapter here, and we're going to plug it directly back into that same fitting. So you can see these are identical fittings, a little different color, but same fitting that clips right into this water pump. So we'll slide this guy in, push it until it kind of clips in. So you'll see it kind of, the little shoulder on there kind of bottoms out, and then go ahead and just push that red tab up, and now that's locked in. Okay, so second thing we want to do, we're going to go ahead and hook up our air compressor to the water pump. So what this allows us to do is essentially, this is just the water inlet. So this goes directly down to the water tank. So there's very little water sitting in here. What we're trying to do is push air through all the little seals and valves in the water system. So we're actually going to be blowing air through the water pump, through all the valves, through the faucet, through the hot water heater. So everything is going to get blown out, so we don't have any little bit of water sitting that could potentially expand and crack some of these parts. So go ahead and hook up your air compressor. You can hear that little squeal in the background, so that's the pressurization occurring. And if you come around here, you'll see our hot water heater. So here's our hot water heater. It was filled up with water as you were using the system, and now we're going to go ahead and drain the hot water heater. So this is going to be the biggest reservoir, so we'll start with this, and then we'll work our way down to the different, the shower, the utility shower, and the faucet. So back here in the water tank, grab this light so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. So back here you can see this black valve on the hot water heater. So this little valve right here you have to open up. So this is the drain valve and kind of the overpressure valve. So you can see here's the cold water comes into the hot water heater. This is the mixing line. So this is where the cold water comes up and pre-mixes with the hot water out. So up here is the hot water output, and then this is actually that pre-mixing control valve that allows you to change the temperature of that primary output. So we don't have to mess with any of that, just kind of want to give you an overview of what's happening here, but here's our main drain line out of the water pump. So all we have to do is open that guy, so just a little quick twist. It clicks into place, so you'll see it's just barely clicked out now, and you can obviously hear that water coming out, and so that's actually spraying right out the bottom of the vehicle, out that same braided nylon tubing that was down below. So leave that open. One thing I like to do at this point, which makes this go a little bit faster, is you have this valve, this main inlet valve into the hot water heater right here. So right now we have air pushing into the hot water heater, and it's kind of making it sputter like that. If I shut this valve, you can hear that water goes much more of a linear flow, and that's because we kind of stopped the air bubbles from getting forced in, but the water tank is still pressurized. So now we're letting the water just push out using the pressure that's built up into that water tank. And if we go down below underneath, you'll see we'll have a nice steady flow coming out of the hot water heater drain. So if you stay there, let me go ahead and flip it back the other way, and you'll see how it kind of starts to sputter. Because we have these air bubbles that are coming in and out. So by shutting that valve off, you can get that nice linear flow. So you let the hot water tank pressurize with the air that we just clipped in, and then we're actually shutting off the air pressure to that valve, letting that natural pressure that's built up to go ahead and drain the tank. So it might take a couple of minutes to drain this guy. So while that's draining, we can start working on the sprayer valve and the faucet. We will have to let air back into this at some point to fully winterize it. But again, there's 4 gallons of water in that hot water heater, so it can take several minutes for that to fully drain. So the next step, we're gonna pull out our spray shower, utility shower out the back, and we're gonna go ahead and just use it like we normally would, both in the cold and hot setup here. And so simply press the button. I'm just gonna spray it straight to the ground here for now. So we'll just spray it and then just go back and forth between both cold and hot settings. You can see now still some water coming out, but we're actually, so there's the cold setting. So that still has direct air pressure. So you can see a lot more water coming out, but very quickly we can blow out a lot of that water. And you can see now we're getting a little bit of moisture, but mostly air at this point. And then we'll do the same thing going back and forth between the hot and the cold. So this is the hot, and you can see because I shut that valve, there's no air coming out. So we'll go ahead and push that air back into it. You can see now the hot water tank's pretty much empty. So again, see a little bit of moisture coming out, but already our shower is pretty well blown out. And this one is really critical. If you don't get all the water pushed out of this little mixing valve right here, this is the part we see fail more often than not because it's got a lot of moving parts in it. It's a really small, it's got both the temperature control and the pressure control. So a lot happening in this little part here. Really easy for even a small amount of water to get stuck in there and cause some damage. So this looks good to me. Not getting much moisture coming out, so we'll go ahead and shut that off. We'll restow this. And you can hear the hot water heater is pretty much just blowing air out. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut that valve on the hot water heater. So now the valve's shut, the whole system is now pressurized again. We're gonna go up to the galley and we're gonna do the exact same thing we did back here with the shower on the faucet up front. So right here with the faucet, simply open up the valve. You'll see we get a nice flow rate, and then all of a sudden that water's gonna run out and you get a whole bunch of air blowing out of the system. So you can just leave it on one or the other and you kind of flip back and forth. So there's the hot water side, and it's gonna do the same thing. So we'll just keep going back and forth here. And you can see there's still a lot of kind of moisture mist coming out of here. So simply keep going back and forth. You see, it doesn't take too long, depending on how much water is in the system. It can, all these processes might take a little bit longer. You'll see a little bit more water in here, but the process is identical. And then what I like to do, once I've kind of gone through one round of the system, I kind of go back through and start again. So I'll go back, I'll do the hot water heater, then I will go back and do the shower, and then the galley again, and kind of do that a couple times until I don't see water coming out of anything. A little bit of moisture is okay, but we want to make sure we're not getting any of those big bursts of water coming out. So that's the process. Leave some questions, comments below if you guys need any clarification on anything, but hopefully this helps. And as always, check us out. You can find more information at titanvans.com. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us here. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got lots of good informational videos coming your way. So see you next time.